Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another video and we are going to talk about AV blocks, commonly known as heart blocks. So if you're following along with the study guide, which I highly recommend that you do, we're just starting here kind of towards the middle of the study guide. You'll see it. Again, this is what it looks like. This is the page start here. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, make sure you go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, where I post weekly videos on topics that will help suit you for the NCLEX in your preparations, whether you are about to take your boards or you're in nursing school and you need some extra study. This here is a great channel for you. So we're going to jump right in here talking about these AV blocks. So essentially the premise here for AV blocks is that whatever is happening in the atria, right, so this electrical activity, it can't make its way down effectively into the ventricles, right? So there's some sort of blockage from the atria into the ventricle, hence the name AV block, right? So, for example, in a third-degree heart block, which we argue is the worst type of heart block, the impulse can't make its way down there at all. So whenever you hear first degree, second degree, third degree, what we're talking about is different levels of severity of blockage between electrical impulse from the atria down into the ventricle, right? So for example, like I have here in the third degree heart block, right, the impulse can't make its way down at all. So this electric activity of firing off in the atria is unable to make its way down into the ventricles, right? So what we see is that this SA node is firing at its own pace, and this AV node is firing at its own pace, right? So they're doing their own thing. Now, the P waves, right, which is the atria firing, is going to be firing at a rate of 60 to 100, okay? So if you have the AV node kick in, it's going to be going a little bit slower, 40 to 60, right? And we actually have the Purkinjes as well up in here. They fire at even slower pace to 20 to 40 beats per minute. So, jumping in here at a first degree AV block. So, when you're looking at the EKG strip here, right, what you'll notice, the first thing you'll notice is that, of course, it's a slower rhythm, right? If we use the triplicate method here, we notice that our heart rate, right, is pretty slow, less than 60 here, right? And if you're unfamiliar with the triplicate method, I do go into depth and detail in another video, which you are willing to look at. It's in the description. There's a link. So our rhythm here is regular, right? There's not any irregularity in the rhythm. Our QRS complex, right, is normal, and our P waves are normal, right? Now, our P to QRS relationship is not normal. So what we see is a prolonged conduction in the AV junction, right? And the PR interval is greater than 0.20 seconds. So what we're looking at is a prolonged PR interval, constant prolonged PR interval. It should be normally 0.12 to 0.20. So again, should not be longer than one big box. And by big box, I mean this right here, this big box. And in there, you can see the smaller boxes. But if we look here, right, our P, we'll take this segment, for example. Our P wave starts here, right? Atria fires, we go all the way over, right? And if we line this up, let's see if we can find a better one, actually. Here's a good example. P wave starts, right? As you can see, once the P wave fires, we're already over one big box, right? So we're over that 0.20 threshold. Wow, it's prolonged. And we see that it's consistently prolonged, right? And that is an indication of a first degree AV block. Now, it can be normal in absolutely healthy people, but the big takeaway here, which will help you with the NCLEX, is a consistently prolonged PR interval, right? And there's some different causes, right? So it could be like a myocardial infarction heart attack, right? It could be high potassium. It could be an increased vagal tone. It could be all these different things that will cause it.